Good morning, Raptor fans. Welcome to Pinsari Basketball Live. And we are officially on that date, on that special date that all of us had circled on our calendars, January 15th. And January 15th is the first day that pretty much everyone in the NBA can be traded, which means that if there was a hang-up on potential Pascal Siakam trades, today was the date to watch. And so far, nothing. So all in the clear, but the day is long and the day is young, and I'm hoping I'm catching some of you on your way to work. This could be a morning live stream. Love this comment here. Good morning, everyone. Morning stream on the way to work. Hit the like button. Thank you, Nick Laugh. Good morning. Always surprising and always kind of cool that no matter when we do a live stream, there's always people. People are up. The world is big. Sometimes we get people calling in from China, sometimes Taiwan, sometimes Africa, sometimes Ireland. It's really cool. Today, I want to do something to hopefully settle some of the panic and fear. And I want to talk about 10 things that will happen for the Raptors. Who the hell am I? Am I clairvoyant? Well, as it so happens, I have a bit of a crystal ball into the Raptors' future. Once in a while, it does work, man. Once in a while, it works. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it catches me astray. Sometimes it does catch me off. It catches me napping. I was pretty sure about Jordan Hawkins in the last year's draft, and then they went with Gradey, and that was like, whoa, that bad crystal ball didn't get it right there, But Christian Koloko snapped, got it. Scottie Barnes snapped, got it. Thought they were going to tank at the deadline last night. Crystal ball didn't malfunction again. So if my history is proving right, my hit rate on these is about 7 out of 10. Triple fermentation. What kind of coffee you drinking? It's not the fanciest kind of coffee. It is Nabob. It's Nabob coffee. And now I just gave a free promo to Nabob coffee. Scratch that. It's a no-name coffee. Not my favorite coffee. There you go. You undo the promo. It's not my favorite coffee, but it is the coffee that I'm having right now. Okay, so what I would like to do is I would like to talk through these 10 things that I believe are going to happen for the Raptors. 2 of them do break the format of going to happen over the next year, and they're more like things that will happen over the next few years. I think some are me playing it very safe, not wanting to be wrong, and a couple of them are pretty out there. So let's start with the first one. Pascal Siakam will not be a Raptor on February 9th, 2024. Whoa. Look, this one requires a lot of talking, and I think we've done a lot of talking about it. We did a trade machine show. A lot of people got upset. There's a lot of different ways that you can go on this Pascal Siakam situation. I believe that it's too far. Too much has happened. It's pretty clear where the Raptors stand. And yes, Pascal Siakam is playing hella amazing offensively over the last, couple of, I would say like 6 weeks. He's been one of the top 15 to top 20, if not top 15 offensive players in the NBA, just in terms of efficiency, impact, everything. And you have to ask yourself, if you're the Raptors, like, can we afford to lose this guy? Now, certainly, this is not the first time, and it will not be the last time that a player has soured on a team and the team has soured on the player. And then at some point, the two have just said, okay, truce, let's make it work. So it's not completely ruled out that the Raptors could, make something happen. However, I think that the sticking points are just too rigid. And the sticking points being max contract 5 years, the Raptors and how they perceive their cap sheet. There's so much to talk about with this, with second apron stuff, and how teams have kind of boxed themselves into maybe rosters that they don't want to have. I think a good example of this would be the Phoenix Suns. Just looking at the Phoenix Suns, situation with Kevin Durant. And of course, they made a lot of these moves before, the CBA was finalized. And so they're kind of stuck, right? And then they made matters worse by getting Bradley Beal. And now it's like, oh, well, stuck just got even more stuck. And I think the Raptors just don't want to find themselves in that situation, especially because they're not an old team that's like trying to go for one last hurrah. They're actually a pretty young team. And typically, I think the second apron is designed to make it so that it's hard to have 3 max players. right? Now, Raptors will have definitely one max player, Scottie Barnes. Can they have 2 and 3, which was going to be the inevitable complication of having Pascal and OG? Well, you say, okay, wait, they lost Fred, right, for nothing. And they replaced him with shorter term contracts, which is McDaniels and Schroder and Trent, right? So shouldn't the money they save on Fred have been useful in, making OG and Pascal part of the future? And then definitely the money that they've saved on OG, that should certainly be able to go to Pascal. We're clear, we're good. But I don't think it's necessarily that simple, because you didn't trade OG for picks and expirings. You traded OG for largely a package, which includes a player that, frankly, is going to be very expensive to retain. Now, some people have said that Emanuel Quickley will be a 20 to 25 million player. I think he'll be north of 25, right? I do. Iceman like Gervin, the spicy barbecue era needs to begin ASAP. Well, that era includes no defense. And I think a player that you're very supportive of has been a really big part of those defensive lapses. And so, look, man, we saw OG not really great on defense in his final, weeks here. He knew something was going down. The Raptors were pretty open and communicative with him. And now we're seeing him great. And if another team is looking at this and saying, hey, man, this guy's a lot better than OG offensively, if he just tried on defense, he could become a top 20 player for us. Those players don't grow on trees. And I don't think the Raptors' asking price is that ridiculous. I think the Raptors are willing to settle for something very reasonable here, knowing where they are, knowing where their backs in the corner. And I just don't think teams trust this situation enough. But as his shooting continues to round out, I believe as teams become a little bit more desperate, you're seeing teams like the Kings lose a really close one last night. You're seeing a lot of teams that maybe felt like, now we can do it without him. Maybe they get desperate. And I think that the Raptors are probably banking on the fact that over the next 3 weeks, one of those teams is going to cave. And if they don't, of course, the Raptors could be left holding a pretty weird situation, in my opinion, because either you're going to offer him the 5 years, which you don't want to do, or he's going to walk, which you don't want him to do, because he's an asset right now in your building and he's a hell of a player. So I think the Raptors split the difference and make a trade. So I don't think he's going to be a Raptor on February 9th, 2024. Number two, almost 8 minutes in, we're getting to number 2. Dennis Schroder will be a Raptor in training camp 2024. Goes without saying, I have been hit or miss on Dennis Schroder. I admire his toughness and his leadership, and he's been playing better than he was last year and the year before. I think it's been really great to have a player who's very supportive of Darko, especially because he's a new coach, first-time head coach. Sometimes you just need a little bit of, a guy in the locker room who can tell guys, I know he sounds crazy, but it works. Trust me, he's done it. It's valuable. But also his shooting selection and sometimes his role in the lineups has driven me crazy. So, I am neither happy nor sad that the crystal ball told me that Dennis Schroder will, in fact, be a Toronto Raptor in training camp in 2024. And maybe Dennis has found his forever home, like a lost puppy. Okay, number 3. The Raptors will have at least one first-round pick in the 2024 NBA draft. What does that mean, Rob? Well, it doesn't mean what you think it means. I don't believe, because my other prediction is that the Raptors will convey their not top 10 first-round pick to the Spurs in 2024. So I don't think the Raptors can finish bottom 6. Yes, I do believe that they will convey their pick, which is not going to be in the top 10, to the San Antonio Spurs. But I also believe, which means it could be anywhere from 11 to 30, not going to be 30, not going to be 29, not going to be 28, not going to be 27. So anywhere from 11 to 20 is going to be the Spurs pick. I don't think we're going to convey a top 10 pick. And the Raptors will select somebody in the first round, regardless. And I believe that will be due to one of the following things. Either they will get a pick back in the Pascal Siakam trade, or they will get a pick back for somebody else. Okay. Number 4, Scottie Barnes will finish top 10 in the 2024-2025 MVP voting. That's next year. So that's kind of breaking the rules a little bit because I said, these things will happen over the next 12 months. And that clearly falls into like 16 months territory. But nevertheless, I believe that Scottie Barnes will be that good that soon for the Raptors. Okay. Number 5, the Raptors will trade at least one of Chris Boucher, Thaddeus Young, Gary Trent, or Otto Porter at the deadline or before. Now, that is a very, very safe hedging your bets type of trade. But look, the Raptors, we have to be realistic. They are 9 games under 500, and they're going into a game against the Boston Celtics. I do not believe this team defensively competes hard enough. Even if I believe offensively, I believe they can hold water against a team like the Boston Celtics. Now, that sounds crazy. The Boston Celtics are amazing offensively. But the Raptors have been this good offensively. So I do believe at some point the math will just start to stick out and you'll realize that the value of holding guys like Thaddeus Young and Chris Boucher, we just saw the trade, right? We just saw the trade. Marvin Bagley plus, Isaiah Livers yesterday plus, for plus two second-round picks for Danilo Gallinari and Mike Muscala. Like, who won, who lost? I mean, honestly, I think everyone lost that trade. Y'all heard of win-win trades? That's a lose-lose trade. Nobody gets better that way. And I mean, from the Pistons side, of course, we're looking at it like, oh, they just opened up some cap space. That's great. They just opened up some cap space. Cap space for who? Cap space for what? You suck. Who is going to come to that dumpster fire of an organization? You'd be much better trading for somebody who couldn't help but to actually ask yourself who comes to the Pistons after this year. Like who? Like Siakam? Okay, good luck. Good luck with that. He will have better offers than that, I would assume. Like there's no Fred VanVleet. Like you'll have a Fred VanVleet situation. Like you'll have someone that you have to overpay so much. Why not just trade for someone? Like it's just crazy. Instead of creating a new crazy contract, just trade for one. There's like at least 20. Anyways, I digress. Point is, at some point, the Raptors will have to trade one of these players because they'll realize that there's some team out there that is willing to trade a player with 2 years left on their contract plus a first-round pick in order to free up some cap space to chase some hypothetical player. And ultimately, maybe the Raptors are able to finesse a first-round pick out of it because that team doesn't value this, maybe don't value this draft. I think also, the Raptors have tried multiple times to get into this draft, or not into this draft, into drafts in general when they didn't have a first-round pick. You just reminded me to vote for Scottie. Funny enough, I didn't remind you to vote for Scottie, but yes, vote.nba.com, vote for Scottie Barnes, man. I mean, look, voting is down this year. I'm looking at the numbers across the board. It's very down, and it's down because people aren't able to retweet and vote. Okay? So don't be the lazy fan base. Be the fan base that is willing to fight NBA.com and all of its technical issues and the NBA app and all of its inadequacies and get this dude into the All-Star game. It'd be great. It'd be really great. Okay. Number 6. Christian Koloko will play again this season. This feels very bold, very or whatever the word is. This is like a proclamation. This is like, okay. A lot of us have assumed he's out for the season. His career could be over. Raptors playing it very close to the chest. But I believe that at some point in February, maybe even late January, maybe late February, maybe March, maybe April, I believe Christian Koloko will play at least a game for the Raptors. These are my hopes. But these are also there's a timeline of recovery for what I believe he's going through. And I believe it lines up with this season. Anyways, number 7, Gradey Dick will be a solid rotation player by January 14th, 2025. A lot of people noticed that Jordan Hawkins went off. Of course, I did too. I love Jordan Hawkins. Love him. Love how he's playing. And there's a part of me that is just, a Hawkins supporter and a Hawkins fan for life. I've been following him for a long time, and I'm just like, it is hard for me to imagine Gradey Dick ever doing what this guy is doing right now as a rookie. Like, really hard. Even if I address the 1 year gap in their age, it's so effortless for Jordan, the way the ball comes off his hands. But I'm reminded of how much more well-rounded Gradey's game could be and how much bigger he is. And I'm just like, you know what? Give it time. And I do believe that I trust this development staff. I've said it 100 times. I do. I really do. They have made everyone better. So, well, almost everyone better. Look at how great Pascal Siakam's playing on offense. Like, they can't control his defensive compete level, but man, offensively, they've helped everybody. Now, a lot of the onus for individual development or player development goes on to the player themselves. And that's definitely part of it. If they tell you to do X, Y, Z in the offseason and you get fat and out of shape and, bang IG models the whole time, it's not gonna matter what they do with you. But if you get guys bought in and you can get the proper guidance for them via your assistant coaches, your training staff, you can get the proper facilities for them, I think they can thrive. And I'm seeing OG this year prior to his trade. He was doing some very dynamic stuff at the rim, finishing at the rim in ways I had never seen him do under Nick Nurse. Like, yo, that's not like this is not something that you could have expected coming into this season. Guys don't usually just magically figure this out at 26. It's obviously the training staff. They're good. They're really good. And I believe they're going to work with Gradey and make them a lot better. Number 8, the Raptors will. Oh, wait. I already got number 8 out of the way because I talked about it earlier. So let's go to number 9. The Raptors will target a big with their 2024 second round pick and a combo guard with their soon to be acquired first round pick in the 2024 NBA draft. I don't know if that big is Zach Edey, though. I don't think it is, but this would be very interesting. A lot of people have been talking about Zach Edey, obviously the Canadian roots. That makes sense. People are very excited about RJ Barrett. People are very excited about potentially training for Andrew Wiggins. Let's bring everybody home. Americans, on the other hand, are also very excited. Send all of these Canadians back to Canada. You just present Bill Simmons with the concept of deportation, and he is just licking his chops. I don't think it's going to be him, but there are a couple of bigs that I think we can talk about at some point once we see where the season is going, and we can shift a little bit of our focus more towards the draft. And I do believe that the reason that a lot of people in this community and in this fan base know so much about Jordan Hawkins and the player he was at UConn, and know a lot about some of the other players that we were considering from Kobe Buffkin, etc., Kason Wallace. I just think we're becoming a little bit broader as a fan base in terms of our focus on other things other than specifically the Raptors. Maybe these trade shows open your mind up to how good players on the other teams are, some of the young prospects. Certainly, I feel like because Pascal Siakam's been dangled in trade rumors, our fan base probably knows a lot more about Dyson Daniels and Jarris Walker than 90% of fan bases out there. Why? Because of 2 trade deadlines, right? Where I was like, if we're trading OG, I want Dyson Daniels. If we're trading Pascal, I want Jarris Walker. Onyeka Okongwu, again, we're just becoming smarter. I would hold that the average person in this community could probably beat Charles Barkley in who he played for, which is pretty cool. I mean, average diehard in this community, not average casual observer, but like people who actually watch these streams like long. Like I feel like we cover so much and talk about so much pertaining to college basketball, draft, international play, other teams, etc. That I think it's forming a very well-rounded perspective on the NBA. My hope is. Okay, and number 10. This is breaking a lot of rules. Emanuel Quickley will retire with at least 3 All-Star selections, at least one of which will come as a Toronto Raptor. A lot has been made about IQ and RJ and what type of players they'll be, and I just want to share my thoughts on that before we end this live stream. I think that Emanuel Quickley has been unfairly cast maybe as Tyrese Maxey 2.0. There's a lot of stuff that Tyrese Maxey does that IQ doesn't do. but vice versa too. Like I think maybe 2 years from now, when we look up, there'll be a slight quickness and speed and burst and vertical advantage for Tyrese Maxey. I think he's a younger, bouncier, maybe like quicker guard. Just by a hair, not by too much. But I think if the two put it to a foot race, I think Tyrese is burstier. I think he's twitchier. He might also be a little bit longer. I don't remember the exact measurements, but to my eye, he looks just a hair longer. It's like iPhone 7, iPhone 7, 7A or 7C or whatever. Like it's close, man, in terms of their physical attributes. But it's those inches matter. When you're an undersized guard, those inches matter in a league that is increasingly going towards 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" point guards. Both Emanuel Quickley and Tyrese Maxey will both be undersized guards going forward. So will Darius Garland. Comparing these three, again, guys, they're not really that comparable. DG obviously being the best passer of the bunch, probably the best ball handler of the bunch, probably the best shooter of the bunch so far, and the best. Well, I don't know. They're all really good shooters, but Darius Garland seems to be the best passer. So really, the gap here will be who's going to do what in terms of development, right? Also worth noting, I think Tyrese Maxey is the youngest of the three. So when I look at Emmanuel Quickley's game, there are gaps, right? His passing is somewhat limited. Somewhat. It's not great. It's not bad. It's just not advanced. He's not seeing the floor like Scottie Barnes, right? He's not seeing the floor like Tyrese Halliburton. So with increased reps will come increased vision, I believe. He's young enough right now that I think he'll become even better at it. It's like, the first game he's struggling with post-entry passes, right? He's not a turnover-prone player. He's been ridiculously, and I do mean ridiculously, unturnover-prone. Like, he's been one of the least turnover-prone guards in the NBA. You're almost shocked that he doesn't turn the ball over more just by virtue of the fact that he handles it so much. But he is remarkably error-free, which is a great quality to have. But also, he plays it too safe. There are a lot of passes that he could throw that he doesn't throw, and he needs to throw them. So he's going to have to get better at this if he's going to play a little bit of one, a little bit more one. But I also think that with that projection being said, that's actually part of the appeal with him. Because I do believe that he can long-term play next to Scottie Barnes, where Scottie operates as more of a hub or a one or playmaking forward, and IQ becomes more of a scoring guard. And that dynamic works very well in the NBA, as we've seen with Jokic and Jamal Murray. Is Jamal Murray a pure point guard? Hell no. I think where his real progression, development, and some of that all-star stuff will come is like when the Raptors traded for Emanuel Quickley, I remember flashing a shooting chart, and you saw like a big like hot zone, like 7 to 12 feet away from the basket. And it's this beautiful place to be a scorer. Tony Parker was a great scorer from there with all those floaters and everything. Now, IQ, I don't think he's having the greatest shooting luck around the basket so far, because I think he's better than what he's shown. He missed a ton of floaters early on. He can get better in that range, but I think he can get even better getting one more, like getting a little bit closer to the basket. I don't know if he's afraid of contact. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if he's afraid of like getting knocked about. Sometimes, young players have a situation where they get maybe the wind knocked out of them when they're really young, and they just learn to kind of not take contact. And necessarily you don't want him being pinball, like Kyle Lowry, but he's going to have to find ways to get a little bit closer to the basket on these shots. Defensively, some of the point of attack stuff, he's going to have to get a little bit smarter with his screen navigation. But I think among he and Tyrese Maxey, and certainly Darius Garland, he is by far the best defender. His off-ball stuff is amazing. Some of his recovery is awesome. So the shooting, the passing, and he's a good rebounder for his size. He screen sets amazing. He's a great screener. Like, he does all these amazing things. And what I'm describing probably doesn't feel like an all-star to you, And the reason I'm not saying like he's going to be an 8-time All-Star, 9-time All-Star like that is because typically those guys are like top 10 players. And I don't think he's going to be a top 10 player. But when I talk about 3, 4-time All-Stars, who am I talking about? I talk about guys like Al Horford. And to get to that level, you really just have to be a very meaningful contributor on a very good team, which is what I think Emanuel Quickley will be going forward. Anyways, this channel is growing super. Mason McKee, you've made some brilliant predictions in the past, Koloko being drafted, etc. For fun, which team do you think trades for Siakam? I'm leaning Golden State. Great question, Mason. Weirdly enough, the more I think about Dallas, the more Dallas makes sense. I do wonder if Dallas is the leverage point, though, right? So if Dallas becomes the spot, right, then some team basically just has to beat Dallas's offer. Now, if Dallas's offer gets leaked to be Grant Williams, Josh Green, Omax, first round pick, second, a few seconds or whatever, if that's the framework, Maxi Kleber, if that's the framework of their trade, then some team is going to look at that and be like, oh, that's what it takes? I can beat that offer. And that is how you drive. You need one solid offer, really. You need one friend in the NBA to make one solid floor on Siakam's value. And then you can start the bidding war. Now, I'm not sure if that bidding war has already started. That would be really interesting. But I think that I can't see this team extending him 5 years because, look, man, if he would have taken a 3-year extension, that extension would have been done by now. I think they've looked around this trade market and said, teams are not giving fair value for him right now. They're treating him like a rental. I think the narrative around Siakam and the reality around Siakam are very, very different. I think he's a much better player than the narrative suggests. I also think he's a much worse fit long-term than the average Raptor fan suggests. So it's a bit of, he's not that bad, he's not that good, but he's way better than some of the offers that I've seen coming in for him, man. So it would probably make them a contender. Yeah, man, especially with the way he's been shooting. Like, my God, oh my God, some of the stats. Like, look at isolate the last 20 games for Siakam and just look at his shooting relative to the league. It's ridiculous. Like, if he had not come out and shot like complete dog shit in the first, 20 games, like, I'm pretty sure right now, heading into the 40 game mark tonight, he'd be shooting like 42% from 3. Like, it's crazy. It's like whatever Scottie's superpower, shooting, whatever he's doing, like Siakam's on a similar jump over the last 15, 20 games. So it's been nuts. And any team out there that's like, oh, well, he can't space the floor, he's doing it. Oh, he can't operate with low usage, he's doing it. Just an FYI, in terms of just overall like touches in the front court, usage, etc., Siakam's not dominating the basketball right now. See, earlier in the season, he was finding success in another way where he was being a post up and we're seeing like 28% usage, 32% usage, 36% usage, where I was like, oh my gosh. And other teams might be like, oh my gosh, too, because they're like, well, what the fuck is this? Right? Like, what are we doing here? But now I'm looking at it like, hey, if I'm a rival general manager, he's doing things for you around RJ, IQ, and Scottie that he can do for me too, around DeJounte and Trey, or around Luka and Kyrie. Like, and this makes them way better. You know what I mean? Agreed. It's not super high volume stuff, but it's getting to the point where a team is going to have to chase him off the line if he's in the corner, because it's like almost like one of the more efficient shots the Raptors can find in their offense. Anyways, just before the 30-minute mark, I want to say thank you to everyone who's helping this community grow. We've been on a crazy heater. We just had our first video past 60,000 views. Who saw that coming? I think I'm pretty sure like 2 days ago or 3 days ago, I was like, I don't know if we'll ever have a video past 30,000. And boom, there's the first video go 60,000. That's pretty cool. Anyways, make sure to hit like on this video, guys. Subscribe if you haven't already. And see you guys tonight after the Boston game. See ya.